It was a happy wedding day. Everyone was smiling and celebrating, but in just one moment, everything changed. People started shouting, some were confused, some were scared, and the whole place turned into chaos because something shocking happened right there at the altar. Something no one expected, and what happened next shocked everyone. If you love real-life stories like this, stories that teach you and open your eyes, then don't wait. Hit that subscribe button now, because the next story might be the one you will never forget. It did not begin with love, and it did not begin with promises. It began on a quiet afternoon when the sun was high and the road was almost empty. The kind of afternoon when nothing special is expected to happen. But somehow, that was the day everything changed. A young woman stood by the roadside with a small worn-out bag in her hand, her clothes simple, her face tired, and her eyes carrying the weight of someone who had been through too much for her age. People passed her without even looking, cars drove by without slowing down, and to the world, she was just another struggling girl trying to survive. Then a black car slowed down, not because it had to, but because the man inside it noticed something others ignored. He noticed her stillness, her silence, the way she stood like someone who had nowhere else to go. The man in the car was not an ordinary man. He was rich, successful, a self-made millionaire who had built his life from nothing. He had money, respect, influence, everything most people dream of, but deep inside, there was something missing, something money could not buy. As the car came to a stop, he looked at her carefully, not with judgment, but with curiosity, and something inside him told him not to drive away. He stepped out of the car and approached her slowly, and she immediately became cautious because life had taught her that help often comes with a price. He asked her a simple question, "Are you okay?" And for a moment she did not answer, as if she did not know how to respond to kindness anymore. Her name was Aisha, and her story was not a happy one. She had lost her job, lost her place to stay, and had no family nearby to turn to. She was alone, completely alone, and the small bag in her hand was all she had left of her life. Now let me ask you something. If you were in that man's position, would you stop? Or would you drive away like everyone else did? Because that one decision is where everything begins. The man did not think too much about it. He simply decided to help her. At first, it was something small. Just a place for her to stay for a few days, some food and a little support to help her get back on her feet. Nothing serious, nothing permanent, just a simple act of kindness. But sometimes small decisions lead to big consequences. Days passed, and those few days turned into a week, then 2 weeks, then a month, and slowly Aisha began to change. The sadness on her face started to fade. Her confidence began to return. She smiled more, spoke more, and started to look like someone who was finding her way again. She was always respectful, always grateful, always careful with her words. And every single day, she would look at him and say, "Thank you." And over time, those words began to mean something more to him. He was not used to being needed. People respected him because of his money, not because of who he was. But with Aisha, it felt different. She looked at him like he mattered, like he had truly changed her life, and slowly, without even realizing it, he began to care about her more than he should. He started doing more for her, not because she asked, but because he wanted to. He enrolled her in a business course, gave her better clothes, introduced her to a better environment, and opened doors for her that she could never have opened on her own. He did not just help her survive, he helped her grow. Now think about this. When you lift someone from nothing to something, do you expect loyalty, or do you expect nothing in return? Because this is where many people make mistakes. As Aisha's life improved, she became someone completely different from the girl he met on the roadside. She was now confident, beautiful, and admired by people around her. And through it all, she never stopped showing gratitude, at least on the surface. Their bond grew stronger, and what started as kindness slowly turned into something deeper, something emotional, something that felt like love. And for the first time in a long time, the man felt like he was not alone anymore. When he finally realized he loved her, it did not feel sudden. It felt natural, like something that had been building quietly over time, and when he decided to propose to her, he did not hesitate. He believed in her, trusted her, and saw a future with her. The day he proposed was simple but meaningful, and when Aisha said yes, she cried real tears, or at least what looked like real tears. And in that moment, he felt like the happiest man alive. Let me ask you again, do you think those tears were real? Or do you think they meant something else? Because sometimes what we see is not what it truly is. The wedding preparations began almost immediately, and because he had money, everything was big, everything was beautiful, everything was perfect. The venue, the decorations, the clothes, the food, everything was planned to be unforgettable. People talked about the wedding even before it happened, saying it would be one of the biggest celebrations they had ever seen. Aisha played her role perfectly. She was loving, supportive, and excited. She made everyone believe she was deeply in love, and no one had any reason to doubt her. Not his friends, not his family, not even him. But sometimes the truth does not come loudly. It comes quietly, in small signs that are easy to ignore. There were moments when her phone would ring and she would step away to answer. Moments when she would smile at messages and quickly hide her screen. Moments when her attention seemed somewhere else. But every time he noticed, he told himself it was nothing, because love has a way of making people ignore what they should question. Now think about this carefully. If you start seeing signs like that, would you ask questions, or would you keep trusting? Because what you choose in that moment can change everything. As the wedding day got closer, everything seemed to be falling into place. But behind the smiles, behind the laughter, behind the planes, something was building. Something hidden. Something dangerous. And the man had no idea that the life he thought he was building was already being planned for something else. What he saw as love, she may have seen as opportunity. What he saw as a future, she may have seen as a chance. And what he believed was loyalty might not have been loyalty at all. Because sometimes the people you help the most are the ones who learn you the best, not to love you, but to use you. And as the wedding day drew closer, with everyone excited and ready to celebrate, one truth remained hidden, waiting for the right moment to come out. A truth that would not just break a heart, but would shake everything, destroy everything, and turn what was meant to be a beautiful beginning into something no one would ever forget. The wedding day finally came, and everything looked perfect from the outside, the kind of day people would talk about for years. The hall was bright, filled with beautiful decorations, music was playing, people were smiling, families were happy, and everywhere you looked it felt like love was in the air. But sometimes, what looks perfect on the outside is already broken on the inside. He woke up that morning feeling calm, not excited, not nervous, just calm. The kind of calm that comes when your heart has already seen something your mind is still trying to understand. Because 2 nights before that day, something happened that changed everything. He had come home early that evening. He was not supposed to be back, but something in him just told him to go home. No reason, no explanation, just a feeling he could not ignore. And sometimes those feelings are not wrong. The house was quiet when he entered, too quiet, and as he walked slowly inside, he heard a voice. Her voice, soft, relaxed, laughing. Not the kind of laugh she gave him. This one felt different, real in a way he had never heard before. And that was when his heart started beating faster. He did not rush. He did not call her name. He just walked slowly toward the sound, step by step, until he got close to the door. It was slightly open, and through that small space, he heard something that stopped him completely. "After the wedding, everything will be mine," she said, her voice clear, confident, like someone who had already won. His body went cold. Another voice replied, a man's voice, calm and sure. "Are you sure he will not find out?" And then she laughed, a deep laugh, the kind that carries no fear. He is too in love to see anything. At that moment, something inside him broke, not loudly, not with tears, but quietly, like something important had just disappeared from his life forever. He did not enter the room. He did not confront her. He did not make a sound. He just stood there, listening, learning, understanding the truth he had been blind to for so long. She was not just cheating, she was planning. Planning to take everything from him, everything he had worked for, everything he had built, everything he believed he was sharing with her. Let me ask you something here. If you were in his place, hearing that with your own ears, what would you do? Would you walk in and fight? Or would you stay quiet and think? He chose silence. That night, he did not sleep. Not even for a moment. He sat alone, going over everything in his mind, every smile, every thank you, every moment that now felt like a lie, and slowly the pain turned into something else. Not anger, not sadness, but clarity. By morning, he had made his decision. The wedding would not be cancelled. It would go on exactly as planned. Now think about this. Why would a man continue a wedding after hearing something like that? What would be going on in his mind? Was it love? Was it revenge? Or was it something deeper? Back to the wedding day, everything was ready, the guests were seated, music filled the hall, and then she walked in, dressed in white, looking perfect, smiling like nothing had ever happened, like she was truly in love, and everyone admired her. People whispered, "She is beautiful. He is lucky." But he stood there looking at her with a different kind of eyes, not the eyes of a man in love, but the eyes of a man who had finally seen the truth. The ceremony began. The priest spoke, people listened, cameras recorded every moment. Everything was going smoothly. Just like every perfect wedding. And then the moment came. The moment everyone was waiting for. The priest turned to him and asked, "Do you take her as your wife?" There was a small pause, not long enough for people to notice, but long enough for him to think about everything, the past, the lies, the truth. He looked at her. She smiled at him, confident, calm, like someone who had everything under control. "Let me ask you here, do you think she had any idea that he knew the truth? Or do you think she believed her secret was safe?" He smiled back. "I do," he said. The hall erupted in joy. People clapped, some even stood up. Families were happy. It looked like a perfect moment. But what they did not know was that this was not the end. It was the beginning of something they would never forget. Just a few seconds later, he raised his hand slightly, and the music stopped. At first, people thought it was part of the program, maybe something planned, maybe a surprise. But then the big screen behind them came on. Faces turned, smiles still on, waiting to see what would happen next. Then the video started. At first, it was not clear. People leaned forward, trying to understand, and then her voice came out, clear, loud, impossible to deny. Her laughter filled the room, the same words he heard that night. "After the wedding, everything will be mine." The smiles disappeared. The room went silent. You could hear people breathing. Her face changed instantly. The same woman who stood proud just seconds ago suddenly looked lost, confused, afraid. She turned slowly toward the screen, her eyes wide, her body frozen. The truth was right there, no escape, no lies, no hiding. Now let me ask you something. Imagine you were sitting in that hall, watching that happen in real time. How would you react? Would you stay silent? Or would you speak? The man she was talking to in the video was in the crowd. People began to look around, trying to find him, and when they did, all eyes turned toward him. The pressure, the shame, the exposure, everything hit at once. He could not run. He could not hide. And the groom? He did nothing. No shouting. No fighting. No anger. He just stood there, calm, watching everything fall apart. "I gave you everything," he finally said, his voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. "I gave you a life you did not have. I trusted you." Tears filled her eyes, but they did not mean anything anymore. "You did not love me," he continued. "You were waiting." The silence in the room was heavy. No one moved, no one spoke. It felt like time itself had stopped, just to let the truth settle. "This wedding did not stop," he said, looking around at everyone, "but everything else did." And that was it. No drama. No noise. Just truth. Pure truth. The kind that destroys everything in seconds. Now let me ask you one last question. If you were him, would you feel satisfied? Or would you still feel pain? Because sometimes exposing the truth does not heal you immediately, it just sets you free. The wedding that was meant to be a celebration became a lesson, a warning, a story people would tell for years, not about love, but about betrayal, about trust, about how sometimes the person you save can be the one planning your downfall. And as people slowly began to leave, still in shock, still trying to understand what they had just witnessed, one thing became clear. Not every smile is real. Not every thank you is from the heart. And not everyone you lift up will stay loyal to you. Sometimes, they are just waiting for the right moment. And when that moment comes, the truth will always find its way out. Got you? You want a strong, emotional call to action that feels natural inside the story. Not boring, not forced, and makes people comment, like, and subscribe instantly. Here it is. If you felt this story, I want to hear from you right now. What would you do if you were in his place? Would you forgive? Or walk away forever? Drop your answer in the comment section. I'm reading everything. And don't just watch and scroll. Hit that like button if this story touched you, because your like helps this story reach more people. Also, tell me where you are watching from. I want to see my people from all over the world. And if you love real stories like this, deep, emotional, and full of truth, then subscribe right now, because the next story might hit even harder than this one.